What is good with you, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. This is another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. Not really sure what episode it is. Probably should know that. But this also is a Dynasty trade review show, episode 16 of that one. I know that one. So, with all of that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you guys who are tapped in, watching the content, taking some time out of your day as we are here in the new year in the Dynasty Fantasy Football offseason. Taking that time, watching the channel, supporting the channel means a lot to us. So appreciate you for that. As they say, new year, new me. Same me, though. So y'all don't got to worry about that one. But with that being said, let me bring in my co-host, MFGDs, and let's get him in the building, man. Let's start talking some Dynasty Fantasy Football. War, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, y'all. I'm doing good. I'm ready to review these trades, man. It's New Year, man. Let's kick it off in a high note. Let's get it in high gear.
Yes, man. And now that we're in the off season, I'm making these trade review shows a little bit more consistent, to say the least. It got a little bit inconsistent in season. Obviously, other content being made during that time. But now that we are in the off season, we're going to make this consistent. We will have at least one trade review episode a month for the remainder of the offseason. So this is all of the trades that were made in your fantasy football playoffs in the month of December. Now that we have finished the month, these were all made within the last 30 days. So I think we should review these trades. Let's talk about them. Let's see some of the dynasty implications as we now are going into the offseason. Maybe some of these were people struggling to try and win now. Maybe they mortgage the future. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens in this. I'm going to share my screen, War, and we'll hop right into it.
All right, let's do it.
So let's see what we got. So if this is your guys' first time to the channel, the way that we do this is all of our viewers, people who are over in our Discord, it is a free Discord. It is linked in the description. You are submitting your Dynasty Fantasy Football trades over there in that Discord. So these are all people that are playing in leagues, people that watch the channel, people that support the show. We're actually reviewing those people's trades. So if you want to submit some of your trades, go ahead and join that Discord. But with that being said, War, we're going to hop right in. I think there's a pretty good chunk of trades today. We'll try and get them all done within the hour, but let's hop in with this one by Shoehorn O'Plenty. And it says David Montgomery, Jahan Dotson, and a second for Kamara, Zay Jones, a third, and a fifth. War, talk to me, man.
I like the David Montgomery, Dotson, and second round pick side. I understand Alvin Kamara had an excellent year. He definitely, if you had Alvin Kamara on one of your rosters, there's a very good chance that you finished with a very great result as far as having him. But I just like the Montgomery side. So for me, Montgomery surprised. And you're getting a second round pick, and you're getting a young receiver. Zay Jones, don't really believe in him too much. Fifth rounder, third rounder, meh. So really, to me, this trade is Montgomery, Dotson, and a second for Kamara. That's pretty much how I break it down. I don't know about you, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, excuse me. I'm a little bit sick today, so you're going to hear a little bit of raspy voice throughout this whole thing. I'm trying to keep up on the liquids, but I do wish we had some context. Typically, I prefer that people put a little bit of context in. I want to know how many teams it is. I want to know if you're a competitive roster. I want to know these types of scoring settings going into your league. Is it super flex, not super flex? I want to know these things. So when you're submitting trades, make sure we're putting that type of context so we can give a little bit better analysis. But at face value, I think really what it looks like to me is if this was made in the month of December, it was probably a team, Tex down there. He's probably a team that was going to try and make a run at a championship. He felt like if he sold a second round pick, Monty, Jahan Dotson, probably those assets being the better dynasty long-term assets and going and buying a guy like Alvin Kamara, that's probably what he was doing to try and go get a championship. Not sure how well Alvin Kamara performed for your team during the playoff run. I know he had a dud performance in there. Can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was the championship week. But I think that's kind of the risk sometimes with these win now trades, especially in the playoffs and things like that, where it's like you are mortgaging a future a little bit, or you're having to give up more value long term just to win now. And sometimes the guys you trade away end up outscoring the guy you traded for, and you double lose the trade. It's just a bad situation all in all. Now, I don't think this is a very lopsided trade. I don't know if we really need to talk about it too much more, but I think ultimately it looks like it was a win now move from Tex. Hopefully it was able to push him over the edge a little bit, but I think long-term value, I definitely am going to rock with the Saints side on this one.
Yeah. Saint took this one, man. In redraft, I don't even then, I don't know, man. David Montgomery and Kamara, man, like the gap there is just not big enough to like really justify what you get in return for this one. So yeah, I'm going to take Saint too.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's go over down here. Another trade, couple of other trades submitted by Shoehorn O'Plenty. But here's another one. Contrast gets Davante Adams and Alexander Mattison. Saint gets Jayden Reed and 2/3. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one, Ward, because Jayden Reed has been a fan favorite of the show all offseason long. I was hyping up Jayden Reed, talking a lot about Jayden Reed, but Jayden Reed being thrown in the same trade as Davante Adams, a guy who's been a fantasy superstar for many, many years. Interested to hear how you feel about this one.
So I'm going to preface this with, in the name of context, as you said earlier. So if Contras 58 is a team that's like contending now, need to win now, I love this trade for him. I love this trade for him because it's a win now move. But if he's not in that position, I hate it. And I like the Saints side. You're getting a young receiver. Even though that offense likes to spread the ball around a little bit, you're still getting a young receiver that produced in his first year. And you're getting 2 third-rounders, which, third-rounders, they are what they are, but they're still picks. You can still get some decent young players in the third round. So, yeah, if Contras is rebuilding, I love this side. Not rebuilding. If he's contending, I love this side for him. But if he's not so much.
Yeah, I mean, if you were buying Adams for a championship run, he paid off in the championship week. I mean, I got Davante Adams on a championship team, and let's just say I didn't win that game because Adams went like 50 points that week. So pretty good buy if you were going to run at a championship. But Jayden Reed's interesting, man. I think Jayden Reed is a guy that earlier in the offseason, and I have the receipts. I can show you guys eventually one day. But I was talking about Jayden Reed potentially being the target leader in this offense, potentially working his way as the wide receiver one, or at least the most fantasy relevant wide receiver in this offense, and kind of did that as we got into the late part of the season. I think he's a guy that I got my eye on moving forward. Definitely a player that if people haven't really gotten caught up to the hype, he'd be a guy that I'd be buying into on some teams. But I'm interested to hear how you feel about the Mattison. The way that I view it is kind of like Mattison for 2/3. Is this the point where we're at with Alexander Mattison? Is Mattison pretty much just thrown to the wayside now?
It's the point I'm at. I mean, it's almost like he's not even on the screen right now. Like I'm just not he's not a net positive or a net negative. He's just there. So, I mean, really, I'm just looking at this trade like Davante Adams for Jayden Reed and 2/3.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
It's weird because I feel like Alexander Mattison is a guy that a lot of people were hyped about, very excited for, because in the times that he filled in for Dalvin Cook, when he was the backup to Dalvin Cook, he always looked like he was going to fill in and give you those running back 1, running back, high-end running back 2 numbers. And this year he's just been it's just been horrible. You haven't really even been able to play Alexander Mattison. And now it looks like he might have lost his job to Ty Chandler going into 2024. Maybe the Vikings end up going and adding a running back. I think that's probably more of the likely scenario.
They'll add one.
But yeah, man, it's tough with Alexander Mattison. But overall, man, I think it's tough. I think the value is actually on the Davante Adams side still. But I could see, Saint being in the last trade where he was kind of getting a little bit younger. I see if you want to sell out some of those assets and go get some Jayden Reeds and stuff like that. I definitely agree with that being an approach that you could take.
Yeah, I agree.
Now let's look one more over here. We do have this Stefon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, a 5th and a 1st for CMC, Fantasy MVP, Hollywood Brown, Jameson Williams in a 2nd. War, you're making a lot of noise. Tell me about it.
There's a lot going on here. First of all, let me say this. Christian McCaffrey is possibly the single greatest fantasy football player, possibly of all time.
Look at this.
Yeah. That you okay? You know what? That explains it. That explains it. Because if I didn't think there would ever be a trade crafted where Stefon Diggs, Tyreek Hill in the first is going to someone. What fantasy player is worth that return? Like, I really don't know.
Like super flex Mahomes, super flex Josh Allen. Like, that's probably what you're giving up to get those guys.
And you still, in the Josh Allen Mahomes side, would still need to add something. You know what I mean?
Look, man, I don't really think we need to beat around the bush. Niner Joe, your fandom, it looks like it got the best of you. Now, you know what? You wanted to go get the best player on your team. This is probably, like we said, the fantasy football MVP, one of the best players, if not the best player in fantasy football this year. But again, we got to keep in mind, guys, Christian McCaffrey is a running back who is approaching the age cliff or about to go over the age cliff. And you have guys like Tyreek Hill, who, from a points per game standpoint, Tyreek Hill was probably pretty close to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
You get a low-end wide receiver one, Stefon Diggs. I don't care that he burns you in the playoffs. I know that got a lot of people who are like, well, Stefon Diggs fell off. No, I don't think Stefon Diggs has fallen off. He's still a low-end wide receiver one for your teams, possibly a high-end wide receiver one, depending on it. And then you get a 2024 first round. Hell, we're not even talking about this as potentially being a mid to an early first round. If it's up there, this is just egregious in my opinion. But I just don't. I think, you know what? You're a fan of the Niners. You went and got Christian McCaffrey. You got fleeced on your way out the door. They knew you paid the Niner tax, and I think that's what it was, man. I don't know if we got to beat around the bush.
Yeah, man. No beat around the bush necessary here.
I don't care about Hollywood. I don't care about Jameson. I don't care about these things, dude. Like,
me either, man. Like, look, okay, put it in the context. Put it in this context. A few weeks ago, we had fantasy football awards. Yeah, you literally traded the runner-up to the MVP for the MVP, and you added Stefon Diggs in the first.
And now we're going 1 year older. The season's over. So I don't know, man. It is. I respect a guy who's a fan of his team going and getting his guy, but you know what? Sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror and take those tinted lenses off and say, maybe this isn't the best decision, bro. Like, maybe I need to relax a little bit. And I think that's probably what you should have done with the CMC trade. I don't know if I would. I mean, quite frankly,
CMC got hurt last week.
Mpazi, you win by a country mile.
Call you Ponzi scheme. You got your you robbed this Niner Joe. You robbed Niner Joe.
Goddamn Niners. But Niners back in the mix now. He's buying Russell Wilson and Keenan Allen, and he's giving up Kenny Pickett, Michael Mayer, a second and a first. What are your thoughts? I'm assuming all of these moves were made to make a championship push. I'm sure he was pushing all of the chips in to try and win a championship. Now, unfortunately, if you were trying to win a championship and you're buying Russell Wilson and Keenan Allen, neither of those guys played in the championship weekend. So, very, very rough. I'm assuming if that was the lineup, Keenan Allen, Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, those guys, I'm assuming you didn't win a fantasy football championship. Now, I hope Niner Joe's listening and he can prove us wrong and be like, haha, motherfuckers, I did actually win my championship. Look at this trophy. And if that's the case, then I guess whatever. You know what? We're playing for the championship trophy. That's what it is. But looking at this trade war, again, this looks like you're pushing the chips in to win a championship, but I think you're losing a lot of value long term.
Yeah, you are. And I don't necessarily even care too much about Pickett and Mayer. It's that first round pick. I mean, at this point,
we don't know where it's at. At
this point, assuming Russell Wilson, assuming you're in a super flex league, okay, you got you maybe possibly a quarterback too, and you got an aging wide receiver. I just feel like in the last trade, I feel like you just got finessed. This trade, I feel like you gave him just a little bit too much. Just a little bit too much. It's not as bad as the last trade, God no. But you gave up a little bit too much in this one. What do you think, Andrew?
I mean, I don't. Again, I wish that all of these were submitted with some context, because things would matter differently if this is a super flex league, if this is a tight end premium league, depending on where that first round pick is. Like, that could change my opinion on this very quickly. But I'm going to assume that this first round pick, if he's pushing the chips in, he's trying to win. I'm assuming it's going to be towards the later half. But even then, like, these are assets. Now let's just talk about the assets from a standpoint. I think Keenan Allen, he's a little bit older, but I think he still has proven that he has a little bit of juice left. Should at worst next year probably be a wide receiver 2 for your fantasy football teams.
At worst, yeah.
I think Russell Wilson, I think he's going to be a starting quarterback next year somewhere else. It doesn't matter if it's not in Denver. I think he'll be somewhere else. And honestly, if it's somewhere else, it might be a better situation than what he's been in Denver. So I don't mind buying Russell Wilson there. In fact, I would argue that Russell Wilson might be somebody that you could buy at a discount this offseason. I don't think you paid discount prices here, but I think that's somebody you could. Kenny Pickett, I think he's proven that he's not the quarterback of the future for the Steelers.
I think he's going to be a backup or out of the league at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he's proven to be worth anything. In fact, he's starting to look real Mitch Trubisky-ish, which is like his backup. So it's looking real similar. They're probably learning the same playbooks and learning from each other. So that's probably why. But Michael Mayer, I like Michael Mayer as a tight end asset, especially in tight end premium leagues. I think year 2 is going to be a lot better than year 1 was. And he showed some good stuff in year 1.
I think he did, but I still think I think he'll improve next year, but I still think he's a year or 2 away from being like what people thought he could be when he came in.
Yeah, and that's the thing with tight ends.
Depends on the quarterback, though.
Right, it does. And that's the thing with tight ends too, right? They take time. I mean, we saw Njoku this year finally give us what people wanted Njoku to be, and it's like year 6 of David Njoku. And it took time, man. It does take time.
I hated the guy for 5 to 6 years. Now he's
he put up top 5 numbers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is what it is. Obviously, the first and second, those have value. Would like to know where they're at, but overall, Niner probably was pushing in the chips, and I don't know if they paid off because of those guys not playing in the championship, but long-term value, I would go with the bottom side of this from Gotti. But look, man, I do have a little bit of advice, and I want to hear your thoughts, War, because you often hear about these people who are like, oh, I should make this trade, lose on my future value to win now. Sometimes I really don't think that that's good advice. I think a lot of the times people who trade for value try and always gain value, get upside, things like that. It works itself out anyways to where you end up winning fantasy football games. You score more fantasy football points. I think selling young assets in hard to go get aging assets to potentially make a push and push you over the edge, I think that's pretty troublesome actually in the dynasty community. And that's how we get like dynasty fantasy football orphans who you have to then find a manager to go get a team that has no future draft capital. They have like all these old 35-year-old quarterbacks, 30-year-old wide receivers, bad running backs. Like, I think that's how we get these teams. And not saying that you can't play fantasy football the way that you want to play fantasy football, but at the end of the day, I think we need to kind of make trades as if we are trying to gain value and gain that value edge rather than trying to project who's going to score more fantasy points just because they're a veteran versus a young guy.
I 1,000% agree with you. Me and you've been to several leagues. If it's one person who is the opposite of what you just talked about is me. I would trade every asset on my team, take the whole league off, and just for future draft capital. And that's because I think it's exactly like Andrew says. I think that you get these teams, hey, I want to win now, and then they don't win, or they make a bad trade and acquire the wrong veterans, and then it's like, I don't want to play anymore, and then you get an orphan. So yeah, I don't think that necessarily it's especially in Dynasty, like it's never a good idea to do something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've and not even sitting here to toot my own horn, but like I've won a couple dynasty championships, but I've never mortgaged my future to go win those. I always am making moves where I think that I'm getting more value or I'm getting better than I am to just like go buy veterans just to buy veterans and then feel like I have like this super team of 30-year-olds. Like that's not always the case that's going to win you the championship. And really we're playing a game where we're projecting the future. I talked about this on a show that I guested on last night. And what we're playing is a game where we're trying to project the future. I mean, did anybody have it on their bingo cards coming into the season that Kyren Williams was going to be like a league winning running back? Probably not. Like
No.
we were
No.
drafting Raheem Mostert like hella late in fantasy drafts, and he ended up being a league winner as well, like leading the NFL in touchdowns. This is a game of variance. Like when you're trying to buy these old vets and project them to hopefully still have it and not lose it, and you're taking that gamble, that risk on them, not falling over the age cliff, and then you mortgage a future for it, you could lose that bet twice. And I think I'm just trying to hedge my losses when I'm making these trades, where I want to make sure that I'm looking at it from a standpoint of like, does this team make me better today? Does it make me better tomorrow? If it makes me better both of those ways, perfect. That's a good deal for me. If it doesn't, then you really probably should be looking at how does this improve my team long term rather than the short term, because the short term is so hard to predict.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree, and I can confirm that you do not build your rosters in a fashion that you're mortgaging your future. I can confirm that.
Dude, I have championship squads with like 3 first-round picks. Like that's what I do, man. But it is what it is. Here's a small one: Bateman for a 4th-round pick. Are you buying Bateman for a 4th?
Yes.
I am too.
I like the way Saint conducts business.
he was a man with a plan going into it, huh?
Yeah.
We got a little chat here. It says I needed QB help bad and traded the 10 and 12 this year for Jordan Love. I still have the number 1, number 8, number 13 this year. Trying to decide on Harrison or Williams at 1. I think trading the 10 and 12 this year for Jordan Love is probably a good move. Is this super flex? If it's super flex, that's even better. I think honestly, what's your opinion here, War? I mean, if this is a super flex, are you going Caleb Williams number 1 if he needs QB help, or are you? And he says yes, it is a super flex. So in a super flex league, are you going Caleb Williams to pair with Jordan Love, or are you going to take the Marvin Harrison?
This is one of those things. Okay, let me tell you this, and I can tell you this as a con. If you're a regular of this show, you know who I root for. If my team takes Caleb Williams, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. in Dynasty. And that's just where I'm at with that. I think it's very team dependent, and if Chicago takes Caleb, I'm definitely leaning Marvin. And you have here's the thing too. Just looking at his picks, there's a very good chance that he could still get a young quarterback with a chance to start this season at number 8. What do you think?
So? Here's my opinion. I think right now we have a pretty clear top 6, top 7-ish prospects in this class. I think at the quarterback position, I'm very confident that the top 3 quarterbacks off the board are most likely going to be Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jayden Daniels. I think these guys are all guys that are going to be early first-round picks. I think Marvin Harrison is going to be an early first. Most likely, I guaranteed Malik Neighbors is going to be an early first. And I think Rome Odunze is going to be an early first. So we have 6 guys right there. And then I think we need to throw in Brock Bowers as at number 7. Yeah. So to me, those are the top 7 guys in this class right now. And then you kind of get into where maybe at 8, he's looking at like a Michael Penix Jr. Maybe
that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. Those 2 guys at number 8. Yeah, they're not going to have the same ceiling as, look, I have people who I listen very closely to and really respect their draft opinion. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people who think Michael Penix is the best quarterback in this draft. Like, they're serious too when they tell me this. So Marvin Harrison Jr., understand that you're drafting Jamar Chase. You're drafting Justin Jefferson. That's who you're getting if you take Marvin Harrison Jr. So if you can get one of those guys and get a quarterback that could do something, I would do that. And look, and if you're 13, look, at 13, you could either take a guy or you could trade 13 for a veteran quarterback.
Or here's another idea. I just thought about it. If you want to take 8 and 13 and try and move up into like 4 or 5, then you could be having your pick at like Drake May, Jayden Daniels type territory, and potentially be making a move like that. So there's a couple things you could do. But with that being said, let's move over to this next pick, or this next trade. Next pick. I'm sitting here thinking about rookies now. But here we go. Shooter McGavin back on the clock, or back on the board. God damn. See, I'm thinking about rookies, man. AJ Dillon and some McDonald's money for Super Duper, who's also going to get Jerrick McKinnon in a second. So what are you doing with Jerrick McKinnon in a second or AJ Dillon? Give me the second.
First of all, I want to say his full name, Super Duper.
Please don't. We're not saying his full name, man. We got sponsors on this show.
Okay. I'm taking his side. I'm taking the Super Duper guy's side. I'm taking his side. I don't even know. Jeez Louise, how did you get a second for that low of a price? AJ Dillon, I think he's clearly failed and missed his opportunity to be the lead back in Green Bay.
I agree.
Honestly, like at this point, they might turn him into a fullback or something. Like, I don't think, and the $9, who cares? Like,
what the hell is that?
I don't know. I have no clue. Who are you buying that late in the season that $9 would? Ah, man.
That's unnecessary negotiations. I know he had to sit there and text and say, okay, throw me $9 fab and we got a deal. Bro, what? What do you need that fab for? Anyways, I agree with you. I saw a mock draft the other day where they had Trevion Henderson from Ohio State going to Green Bay. And if that happened, I think that would be awesome. But Trevion's my favorite running back in the class right now. Still waiting on him to declare, but we'll see what happens. But I agree with you. I think AJ Dillon's kind of lost his opportunity to seize the future lead back role in Green Bay. I think he's just a plotter, man. He's just a guy who's just a guy. And I think you can roster a guy like that, but I'm not giving a second round pick to go get just a guy.
Yeah, no, not at all. You could get, honestly, with that second round pick, you could get someone better than every other asset that was in this trade.
Dude, I would take this running back class this year isn't even that good. And I would take multiple running backs over to AJ Dillon. I'd rather take the shot on Blake Corum. I'd rather take the shot on Braylon Allen, Trevion Henderson, Trey Sermon. I'd like to take Trey Benson. Trey Benson.
So hold on now. Did he go back to college?
No, he probably should.
He probably should.
He probably should. But Trey Benson, there's a lot of guys that you can take a shot on that are probably better than AJ Dillon. And here's Square Up. He's in the chat. He says, good shout, Andrew, on Tajay Spears. He's really about to go crazy next season. I appreciate it, man. I was talking about Tajay Spears as a running back buy potentially because it is my guy, man. That's one of my guys. But he looked good this year, and Derrick Henry's a unrestricted free agent. So I don't know. Wheels up for Tajay. We'll see. I think it's similar to I talked about how I think it's similar to Rashod White and Leonard Fournette last year, where you had the veteran who had a lot of production in Fournette, and then Rashod White got the role in year 2. I think that's kind of what Tajay is going to do this year. But let's move on to this next trade. Niner Joe, he's back at it. He says, I want Ryan Tannehill in 2024 first, and here's my Jordan Love. How you feel about it? Give me the love side, man.
Give me the love side, but I guess I'm kind of just taking both of Niner Joe's trades and just wondering what he's doing.
I'm just wondering. Yeah, because the other moves were win now moves, right? They were. Yes. He was going in and he was getting vets, but now he's buying a first round pick.
Yeah, he gave away a first round pick in the trade to get McCaffrey. And now he's buying one back. And Hill. Now he's buying one back. I mean, I guess.
Hey, you do business, man. But I think so far I haven't agreed with your business moves. But I guess it really depends. I mean, where's the cutoff for you, War, on Jordan Love? If this is, let's assume this is a 12-team league. Mm-hmm. If this is a top 6 pick, do you prefer the pick to Love, or do you think Jordan Love has proven enough now that you're probably going to take Jordan Love over a Jayden Daniels, Michael Penix?
1.7 to 12. That's the range in which I'll be comfortable
with Love
trading the first. Yeah.
107. So 106. Yes. You want those guys we talked about earlier over Jordan Love?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because Jordan Love, as great as he is, and I know we don't need to revisit. We don't need to revisit it. I still see inconsistency in him in that offense. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
But I agree with you for the most part. I think Jordan Love and Jayden Daniels territory, I think that's where it gets close for me. And I'm like, you know what? Do I want to roll the dice with Daniels, or do I want to take what I think looks like a sure thing in Jordan Love? It's a good question mark. But I guess if this is a later first round pick, give me Jordan Love all day long.
Yeah.
Now we got a couple trades from Mr. Bowtie. We'll go through some of these. Tony Pollard for Jahan Dotson and a third. Where are you at here? Are you selling Pollard for Dotson at this point?
I like the Pollard side. Dotson he's okay. I mean, he underperformed to me this season.
He was a lot of people's favorite breakout candidate.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's call it what it is. Both of these guys did not do what they were projected to do this season. But we told you guys that Tony Pollard wasn't going to do what you guys thought he was going to do. We told you. But I'm not here to tell you I told you so. But I still lean the Pollard side. I don't really want too many parts of the Commanders' offense at this point. That third in 2025 means nothing to me.
Yeah, I mean the third, who cares? I think anything after a second round pick is pretty much just throw-ins to trades to get bigger deals and things like that. But yeah, man, I think for me it's probably a fair deal. I could see where if you're like I want to move a running back who's a little bit older, kind of has some future ambiguity to it. Like I'd rather just get a young receiver. I understand that. I think it's probably a fair deal no matter what, though. So I don't have any gripes with this deal.
Yeah.
We do got this one. Minshew for a third. Give me Minshew.
Yeah, why not?
I'll take
especially
a backup.
If you need quarterback help, especially. So.
Yeah, and again, that's assuming this is a super flex league, but I will take a backup quarterback who has shown me that he can fill in and be a fine spot starter for that third round pick all day long.
Yeah.
Let's keep it moving. That one's not cropped, so I'm going to skip that one. Trade processed here. Bijan for George Pickens and JSN. How you feel about this? I still think I'm leaning the Bijan side, man.
Me too, but it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I think JSN is going to step forward pretty significantly year two, and George Pickens kind of came on at the back half of the season, but I think the question mark is like Mason Rudolph is clearly not the long-term answer for Pittsburgh. Who is going to be the quarterback next year to elevate George Pickens? I don't really know. Is it Russell Wilson? Could it be one of those guys?
Could it be Justin Fields?
Maybe Justin Fields. Who knows? But I think there's some question marks there. But I think right now I still just lean Bijan. A lot of people still have Bijan, I think myself included, as the running back one right now in the Dynasty Fantasy Football community. I think there's a little bit more of an argument these days. You could probably argue Jahmyr Gibbs. You could argue Breece Hall. I think people who don't care as much about age would argue CMC, but that's probably your top tier. To me, I think I'm just still going to lean Bijan, but both of these sides are probably getting a trade that's going to help them. And so I think this is probably a really fair deal.
Yeah, it is not too bad.
All right, here's the next one. Rashee Rice and Zay Flowers for Bijan. Ooh, this is a little bit different.
This one is bad.
Yeah, so this is different because we've taken that George Pickens and JSN, and we've now come down to a Rashee Rice and a Zay Flowers. Do you view those guys differently? I mean, you view them differently. How close are JSN and Zay Flowers to you?
JSN is a completely higher tier than Zay Flowers.
What about Rice and Pickens? I think Rice and Pickens are somewhat similar at this point.
They're somewhat. Honestly, I think Rice is in between. Me personally, I think Rice is in between Pickens and JSN. He's like in the middle tier of that.
Okay.
But he's clearly better than Zay Flowers to me.
Okay. So you're not a fan of Zay at this point?
I like Zay. I just don't think he's Rashee Rice.
Fair enough.
I think Rashee Rice has produced more, and he has even though I don't know what the heck's going on, he has a quarterback that's a passer first. Even though Lamar's been a better passer this year.
MVP.
But Lamar is not going to be like, I don't care what happened to Mahomes this year. Lamar's not Mahomes.
Yeah.
I don't care.
What do you think about this one? We had a comment come in. Nico Collins, Darren Waller, 104 and a 25 first. You get Jalen Waddle, JSN, and the 202. 12-man, not a super flex league. Is this a W for the Waddle side? So you're probably going Nico Collins, Darren Waller, and at the 104, this is probably Brock Bowers or Roma Dunze. And then a 25 first. How do you feel about this? I think
this is tough. You know I love Jalen Waddle.
I think I do lean. It's definitely not a landslide trade. I think this is a fair trade. I think I lean the Waddle JSN side.
I think man, I think I lean the Nico Collins side, man.
That tells you this is a fair deal. We both think differently about it. I think you're getting I think Jalen Waddle is a better wide receiver than what Roma Dunze will be at the NFL level. Right now, I haven't grinded into the tape as deep as I want to, but I think right now, I think Jalen Waddle is a better wide receiver. I think JSN has the potential to be a better wide receiver than Nico Collins is at this level. Now you're giving up a 25 first in Darren Waller, and you get a 202. So
I'm baking in the idea that without me knowing anything about the league he's in, I'm baking in the idea that I think somebody's going to grab two quarterbacks in the top three.
He said it's not super flex, though.
Oh, that changes it, man.
No super flex. So probably your first quarterback off the board is probably going to be Caleb Williams at like 108, 109, 110. That's probably where he's going to be coming off the board. Okay,
when you put it like that, I lean the Waddle side.
Okay, all right.
I lean the Waddle side now because it's just safer. It's just safer.
I agree. I don't know if you need to give. I think
super flex, I'm leaning the other side.
I think if you could finesse, like a way that I would negotiate this a little bit and try and finesse it is like if I could give, if they can keep the 202, I don't want to receive the 202 back. And if somehow I can find a way to keep my 25 first, maybe they keep the 202, I keep the 25 first, and you do Nico, Darren Waller, and the 104 for Jalen Waddle and JSN, I would do that. Maybe you have to throw a third in on your end too, just to get it over with. But I would try and keep that 25 first somehow. I don't need that 202 back.
I would like that a lot better.
That's what I'd do. But let's see what else we got here. Two more trades, and then we'll finish off the show. He says, square up. He says top three will be Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Odunze. I don't want to reach on Bowers at 104. If you don't want to reach, I think that's when you do pull the trigger on the Waddle and the JSN. But maybe try and negotiate it a little bit more so you can keep that 25 first. But let's see. We got this one. Ooh, man of the hour, my guy. Tajay Spears, Jalen Hyatt for Jalen Waddle. How you feel about this one, man?
So it's Tajay Spears for Jalen Waddle. I'm leaning the Waddle side.
I'm going the Waddle side too. I'm not at that point on Tajay Spears. Look, I'm not that deep over my head that I think I'm doing that. But
I have a rule of thumb, and I don't know if you share the rule of thumb, but I know like to some capacity you do. I'm just not in the business of trading wide receivers for running backs. That's why that McCaffrey deal was egregious to me. Yeah, he's the best running back, but you're trading two elite wide receivers. It's just more longevity there. Like,
Yeah, especially when it's like young elite tier wide receivers. Like when you're getting like in that top 10, top 12 dynasty cornerstone type of wide receiver range, like I'd just rather take the wide receiver over the running back pretty much every time.
mm-hmm.
But at what point I'm going to ask the question. At what point, I obviously am not a big fan of Jalin Hyatt. You're not a big fan of Jalin Hyatt because you just threw him out the deal. But what wide receiver name has to be put there for you to feel like it's a fair deal? Like if we get into like a Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown territory, are you starting to consider or no?
No, I'm still not considering it.
Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice?
Rashee Rice, I would start thinking about it. But even then, man, it just seems, I don't know, man, like JSN. Like you have to put JSN in there for
JSN and Tajay Spears
like
for
feel
Jalen
good
Waddle?
about that. Yeah, I would need to, because we kind of know what Waddle is at this point. And Spears, I think it will have to be JSN. Because I would need to feel like, okay, yeah, I'm trading a better wide receiver, but I'm getting back a wide receiver that could potentially be the wide receiver I'm trading away.
Yeah, enough upside there, that wide receiver that you feel confident down tiering and still getting that wide receiver. I mean, the running back with some upside too. But yeah, man, let's move on to the next one. You're frozen. I don't know if we lost you or not. Good thing we're pulling up to the last one, but you are frozen on this. So maybe you can get that figured out. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But we do have Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud. Let me see if I can fix this for you, War. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see what happens, guys. We are experiencing technical difficulties for War, so I will pull this one up and talk about it while we're waiting on him to come back. But we do have the 207 and a 2025 second for Spears. That is something I am pulling the trigger on. I am definitely doing that one, Mason. Also, I have the 101 and 101 through the 103 in a Superflex tight end premium league, and I can't decide over Neighbors or Bowers at the 103. Superflex tight end premium. I think I have Neighbors over Bowers, but I think both of them could be good. And let me just fix this. Let's just go here. We'll fix this over here. I think that's a question that you'll have to hold on and kind of think about more as the offseason goes. But what are we doing here, man? I apologize. Let's figure this out. I got an overlay here that is going to fix this. But as we are fixing these delays here for a second, guys, like I said, we're almost to the end of the video, so we aren't going to have to worry too much about it. We do have Warren here. Let's see if he's back. War, you here again, man?
My computer crashed like something. I don't know what. I'm gonna have to check that out, but I'm back.
You're all good,
man. It doesn't
man.
happen again.
We do have one more chat, one comment, and we do have one more trade to review. So I was in the middle of answering this one as you hopped in here. So help us out here. He says 207 and a 25 second for Tajay Spears. I said I'm doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
And then he says he has the 101, the 102, and the 103 in a Superflex tight end premium. He has the first 3 picks. And he says he can't decide for Neighbors or Bowers at the 103. Do you have a preference between the two, Bowers or Neighbors?
Bowers or Neighbors?
Yeah, at 103. I'm assuming he's going Caleb and Marvin Harrison 101 and 102.
Unless you already have like some stud receivers in your lineup, I'm going Bowers. But yeah, it's Neighbors otherwise.
Yeah, and square up. He says that's probably something you can decide when we know their landing spots. Thinks Neighbors will be a beast. So I agree. That's something you can probably make a decision later on. You don't have to make that decision today, so don't stress too much about it. But with that being said, War, we do have kind of a big trade here. We got Joe Burrow, and I do want to – this is coming in from Heath Bar, and this is a first-time submission from Heath Bar, so I appreciate you, Heath. He's helping us out in a rookie mock. Heath, in the future, please show us where it says trade accepted. I need to see that it says trade completed, trade accepted. I'm going to take your word for it that this was accepted this time, but usually I need to see that it's been accepted by both parties. So with that being said, Joe Burrow and 2 seconds, a 2025 second for CJ Stroud in a third. How you feel about this, War?
Receives Joe Burrow. I like the Joe Burrow side. I mean, I understand CJ Stroud looks. I think, hey, can't start sleeping on Joe Burrow. Getting all these seconds plus Joe Burrow. CJ Stroud is good, but he's not that damn good. Let's put that out there, man. I'm on the Burrow side all the way.
I agree, but I think I'm not as landslide-ish as you. I think I have Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud in the same tier of quarterback right now. I think they have similar ceilings, similar floors. You could argue that Joe Burrow being tied to Jamar Chase is better than anything that CJ Stroud has. And then you're going to get the extra value thrown in on the Joe Burrow side. Even it doesn't matter how you cut it. If you have Joe Burrow, one behind CJ Stroud, two behind CJ Stroud, as long as they're in the same tier, I'm going to take the side of the trade that gives me more value. We talked about that earlier in the show, trading for value rather than trading for the player names, most likely. I'm going to lean with the Joe Burrow side as well. I think both of these guys are cornerstone, locked and loaded QB1s for your dynasty teams moving forward, but you get a little bit more value on that Joe Burrow side.
Yeah, yeah. I'm there too. I mean, it's just a bunch of seconds.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, I mean, maybe, I don't know, dude. I just don't see it. This Joe Burrow for CJ Stroud, okay, maybe you got to give a tiny extra up, but yeah, we forget too soon about how great Joe Burrow is.
Yeah, probably a good buy low on Joe Burrow there.
I bought him low. I traded just a little. The trade's not on the screen, but for the sake of, I traded earlier this season Joe Burrow for Kyler Murray. After Joe Burrow got injured, I feel like that was a pretty good deal looking at it now. So,
yeah, I agree. All right, War. So that was it for our episode of Let's Talk Dynasty today. Next episode of Let's Talk Dynasty is going to be on most likely next weekend. We're figuring out a couple more scheduling things moving forward, War. But our next episode, we are going to be doing a Let's Talk Dynasty startup mock draft. So you and I will be mock drafting here live on stream for everybody next weekend. But with that being said, War, let's do the YouTube. We have to do the little YouTube stuff. So make sure you guys like this video on your way out the door. It is the best way to show our channel some support. So make sure you hit that like button. Really does mean a lot to us. We are going into full Dynasty offseason now. So Dynasty content is in full swing. Lots of Dynasty videos hit the channel this week. Lots more coming soon. Potentially some more videos in the future with some other creators and things like that. More to come on that. You guys will get more information when I get some. But make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the notification bell because you don't want to miss any of those when they do come out. And last but not least, if you want to be on our next trade show here next month, if you want to be in some of these mock drafts that we're doing, if you want to do any of this stuff, you want to be involved in the content, make sure you go join that free Discord. That Discord is linked in the description. And like I said, it's free to join, so there's no risk in doing that. But that is how you get access to us entirely over here at the League FFB. War, I know you're doing some other content as well. Do you want to shout out your stuff?
Yes, I sure do. Don't forget, follow League FFB. Let's Talk Dynasty. We're going to be here every week, baby. But while you're at it, go ahead and also check out in the description. Follow me at the Crimson Mask Show. We talk about everything professional wrestling. Even if you don't like professional wrestling, find a friend, find a loved one, and recommend them. Crimson Mask, pro wrestling with an attitude.
There you go, guys. If you like wrestling, go follow Crimson Mask, baby. And obviously, if you like Dynasty Fantasy Football, you know where you're at. You're at the right place right now. So go ahead and do that, guys. With that being said, we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, though, peace out.